Daily Stormer is a site that has had a particularly devastating impact on young people. In 2018, we filed a lawsuit against the publishers of the Daily Stormer for actions that led to the targeting of an African American student at American University who had been recently elected as student body president. In this instance, the publishers of the site facilitated a massive campaign of racist trolling activity that disrupted the student's life, impeded her educational experience, made her fearful for her safety, and caused significant physical and emotional trauma. The vicious targeting of the student incited unlawful activity by others online. Using local human rights law here in DC, we are now pursuing a legal challenge against the Daily Stormer and other online trolls for denying the student an equal opportunity to participate in the very aspects of life we take for granted, including taking full advantage of educational institutions right here in DC. Where do we go from here? We believe that action must be taken to encourage more victims to report, to push law enforcement to do a better job investigating hate incidents that arise in their community, and that the Justice Department must play a critical role here as well. 50 years after the tragic assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King, we are still working to fulfill the goals which animated his I Have a Dream speech. We know that nonprofit organizations can't do all of the work on its own, and we thank the Commission for focusing on this very important issue today.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. Ms. Santino?
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me. My name is Andrea Centino, and I'm a legislative staff attorney with MALDEF, the Mexican American Legal Defense and Educational Fund. Founded in 1968, MALDEF is the nation's leading Latino legal civil rights organization. MALDEF has worked for almost 50 years to confront discrimination and bias wherever they occur. We know intimately how an agenda motivated by hate creates the space for anti-Latino laws, policies, and practices. The rhetoric and messaging that cast Latinos and other underrepresented communities as outsiders and threats are the root of the policies and actions that MALDEF challenges every day. This briefing on the role of the federal government in responding to hate crimes comes at a critical time. In 2016, reported hate crimes reached a 5-year high. The rise in anti-immigrant sentiment and the efforts by state and local governments to enforce immigration laws or to create hostile environments for immigrants leave the Latino community to attack and make it more difficult for our community members to seek protection. Time and again, our community and others have warned the impact that hate rhetoric can have and how it can lead to violent consequences. The federal government and local law enforcement must work to investigate and prosecute hate crimes when they occur, and must send a powerful message to those who might perpetrate hate crimes that these actions will not be normalized. The continual depiction of Latinos as criminals, rapists, and drug dealers, and as threats to the American workforce and the dominant culture, provide those who wish to do us harm the cover that they seek to carry out these biased attacks. The rise in hate crimes against Latinos is certainly motivated by the anti-Latino and exclusionary laws and policies that have long marked our political discourse and that are gaining new steam today. According to the federal government, reported hate crimes in 2016, of those reported hate crimes in 2016, approximately half were motivated by racial bias, and one-third motivated by ethnic discrimination. However, as you well know, federal reporting of hate crimes provides an incomplete picture of the problem that we are dealing with. Local law enforcement are encouraged but not required to report hate crimes annually to the FBI. But since these law enforcement agencies are the largest source of information, their non-participation presents a real barrier to truly understanding the scope of this problem. In addition to underreporting, many times hate crimes are incorrectly identified, which adds to the limitation of that this data that is currently collected. For example, if a police officer arrives to the scene of a location and sees vandalism with a slur or a hate image, they may report that incident as vandalism, but not as a hate crime. It's important that everybody does better to ensure that the jurisdictions and the FBI are correctly identifying hate crimes in our communities. There have been some outside efforts to track and document these hate crimes by news outlets and others. However, this presents many limitations as many crimes are not reported in the news or made viral on social media.
Define what hate crimes are.
As hate crimes are going up for many racial and ethnic minorities, we must also discuss how race intersects with gender, gender identity, sexual orientation, and disability, and the heightened risk that certain members of our community face. For instance, Los Angeles County noted that after the 2016 presidential election, there were 31 anti-transgender hate crimes, a 72% increase, and that 97% of those were violent crimes. From 2012 and 2016, hate crime rate of violence rose by 96% against transgender people and by 76% against LGBTQ individuals. Transgender women of color are particularly vulnerable and are disproportionately targeted with deadly violence. In order to have an inclusive discussion about anti-Latino hate crimes in America, we must also recognize and talk about how racial discrimination intersects with sexism, homophobia, and transphobia in our society, which can lead to deadly results for members of our community. MALDF is also particularly concerned with hate crimes and hate rhetoric in our schools.
Holy shit.
Immigrant and Latino and other underrepresented students are particularly susceptible to bullying based on their identity. One recent study from 2016 revealed that immigrant youth in the U.S. experience greater rates of bullying than do native-born youth, even when controlling for other factors like age, gender, race and ethnicity, grade level, and family affluence. But Latino students who experience bullying in high school also suffer from significant GPA drops compared to other students. There have been numerous reports of anti-bullying incidents during and after the presidential election. After then candidate Trump called Mexican immigrants racists and criminals, Latino students in Sioux City, Iowa reported being harassed and bullied during school hours as other students chanted Trump's name in their presence. Students at the Rosa Parks Elementary School in Berkeley, California, reportedly made statements like, "You live in a Taco Bell and you'll get deported," to other students. And the day after the election, middle school students in Royal Oak, Michigan chanted, "Build the wall," referencing the president's desire to build a border wall between the U.S. and Mexico, bringing several Latino students to tears. The SPLC reported 201 incidents of harassment and intimidation 2 days after the presidential election alone, with anti-immigrant sentiments being the second most reported motivation. MALDF has created a resource material to educate students, teachers, administrators, and parents about anti-immigrant and anti-Latino bullying and what their rights are. At this critical time, MALDF is prepared to provide leadership and to work to oppose discrimination and hate against the Latino community living in the United States. We bring cases across the country to resist the tide of anti-Latino sentiment that infiltrates our communities. We have brought litigation on behalf of Latinos that were violently assaulted and detained at work and against anti-Latino agendas at the state and local level, and we remain committed to this fight. MALDF is ready to meet that challenge before to work with you to end hate in our communities and to realize a vision for America that protects every individual from being targeted because of who you are. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you, Ms. Santino. Ms. Ogletree.
Chair Lehman and distinguished members of the Commission.